Live from our studios in Kingstown, St. Vincent, and the Grenadines. It's your favorite Thursday night show, Up Late with Sehon Marshall. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome the host of tonight's show, Sehon Marshall.
Good night, and welcome to this another edition of Up Late with Sehon Marshall. I'm your host, Sehon Marshall. Thank you so much for joining. It's always a pleasure to come to you every Thursday evening at this time with an exciting, informative, and educational program that discusses issues that are relevant to St. Vincent and the Grenadines, as well as the region and the globe. As always, I thank you for joining and I encourage you to share it. As usual, whenever I ask you to share, I also would share. So let me go to the page and share it. All right, so let's go. Where are we? There we are. Hold on. Right. All right. Now, keep in mind, for those of you who are on Facebook, again, welcome. But remind your friends who are not on Facebook that if they're interested in viewing this program, it is also available live on YouTube. It's being broadcast simultaneously on both platforms. And so, while I understand that one needs an account to be able to view it on Facebook, and they may not have the account to log in, there is also the option of going to YouTube, looking for the same name, Uplate with Sehon Marshall, and adding it, subscribing, and even without subscribing, you can just log on and view it. All right. So there are options, whether you're on Facebook or not, where you can see this very exciting program. This evening, listen, it's going to be an exciting one, one that is going to have a bit of cutting edge to it, because I'm going to address some issues that are topical. But before I get into those issues, this afternoon I journeyed to Chateaubelair. And on my way there, I stopped at a shop in Barley. Now, that's normal because an individual, Sylvester Daniel, he is the father of one of my nephews, and he has known me for most of my life. We've maintained a fantastic relationship. Even though I'm an adult, he looks out for me. So whenever I'm going to Leeward, I would stop at Sylvester Daniel's shop in Barley. Well, this evening, this evening, this afternoon, when I stopped, I noticed just across the road there were a number of vehicles, but I didn't really pay much attention to it. Later, I realized that the Minister of National Security and Deputy Prime Minister, the Honorable Sinclair Leacock, was at the police station doing his visiting. He was there with an entourage, individuals from the API and so forth, uh, officials from his Ministry of National Security, people I know and worked with. Also in the vicinity was the MP for the area, the Honorable Conroy Huggins. So I was in the shop after his tour. The Deputy Prime Minister came over to the shop, and he was there. You know, he offered, he bought some drinks and so on. I was having a drink, by which time my drink was completely finished. So I asked, Honorable Minister, Honorable Deputy Prime Minister, can I have a refill of my drink as well? And without skipping a beat, he offered me a drink. Thank you very much, Honorable Deputy Prime Minister. I also had quite an engaging conversation with the MP, Convoy Mick Huggins. Pleasant guy, absolutely pleasant guy. My cousin who was with me, Iktika, I introduced her. Well, she introduced herself, by the way. She didn't wait on me, but had a good, brief conversation with Huggins as well. I really wish the government well. I do, because I believe if St. Vincent and the Grenadines succeeds, a rising tide lifts all boats. And it means that ordinary Vincentians would succeed. So I wish them well. I wish the Honorable Prime Minister well. I wish the Minister of Housing and MP4 Central Leeward well. Doesn't mean necessarily that I'm going to vote for them, but I wish them well because I want the country to do well. All right? By the way, to my friend Lavon Gibson, I'm going to call you. I'm going to call you. Don't worry. I'm going to call you. Today, my friends, it is Thursday, the 18th, one day before the promised VAT free shopping day of Friday, 19th December. And I want to talk about promises made, promises kept. But I'm framing the entire program this evening under the theme A Vexacious Victory with Grievous Governance. Yes, you see, what kind of nonsense that be? Vexatious victory, grievous governance. Well, for those of you who have not been paying attention, since the elections of November 27th, the supporters of the New Democratic Party have been angry. It seems that they've been angry for so long that they have all of this bottled up anger, frustration, with nowhere to direct it. So you go to their Facebook pages. It's as if they are looking for every comment made, any criticism made to latch on and jump on anyone. I have had people accuse me of trying to muddy the waters regarding the promises of reinstatement, and we'll talk about that. I have had a young man tell me that I'm not qualified to speak, all while, mind you, coming on my page under my post. I have not gone to their pages. I've not commented on anything they've posted. I've just made comments. You see, one of the problems with a lot of the supporters of the New Democratic Party is that they've been angry for so long and they have been channeling hatred towards Dr. Gonzalez and the ULP for so long that there must always be an object of their hate, their anger, and their frustration. Their government is now in power, so where would it go? You know what? Let's channel that to the opposition leader, Ralph Gonzalez. But why? He's not in government. He doesn't drive policy. He doesn't direct policy. Let's direct it at Sehon Marshall or Hans King. I'm not press secretary. Hans King isn't press secretary. He isn't the general manager of National Properties, but he is a citizen of St. Vincent and the Grenadines and entitled to opinion like everyone else. The New Democratic Party, while in opposition, made a number of promises. They promised a VAT-free day on the first shopping day of December. Depending on which card you saw, and maybe you saw both, they made promises to be done, to be fulfilled within the first 30 days and 60 days. Both sets of promises. What were those promises? Slashing VAT within 60 days, within 30 days. Paying the public servants, teachers, police a double salary. That was on the card. Increasing public assistance and providing jobs for young people. Well, the first broken promise was that of the VAT-free day. Why is it a broken promise? Because he said it was going to be on the 1st of December for a shopping day. That was Monday the 1st. The Prime Minister, in responding to questions about that day, gave as an explanation the fact that, well, we were only elected on the 27th. The 28th was a holiday, sorry. And the Monday, we had not even sworn in a cabinet. So it wasn't practical. And that sounds reasonable. That sounds reasonable. And it would have been accepted by me as reasonable if Dr. Friday didn't make that promise 2 weeks before the elections. When he made that promise, he knew that elections would be on the 27th, the Thursday. When he made that promise, he knew that if he won, he may have given the Friday a holiday. When he made that promise, he knew that by next week, the Monday, he wouldn't have a cabinet. But he made the promise. Now, this could be because of a number of things. It could be because he didn't think it through. He didn't actually sit and think it through before he made the promise. If that's the case, I then would be worried and ask myself, is that the person I want to be prime minister? Someone who doesn't think policy through before articulating it. That's me. The second option is that he knew it wasn't practicable, but he made it anyway. A deliberate attempt to deceive. Or maybe he thought it wasn't a big deal. I could tell them one thing, and when I win, clean it up, they'll accept it. Well, again, if Vincentians are willing to accept that, then that's fine. Because you voted for Dr. Friday and the NDP. And even though I didn't vote for him and his party, he still is my prime minister. He's the prime minister of our country. So that's worrying to me. But straight off the bat, there was that broken promise by Dr. Friday. Then, the issue of the reinstating of teachers. Now, this has brought a lot of interaction on my page because I shared a short clip from last week. So I'm going to go into it even more. During the pandemic, the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, like all governments, had put in place regulations to require certain sets of workers to be vaccinated. Failure to do which, using the process of the civil service orders, they would be deemed to have abandoned their job after a particular period. Teachers chose not to, police chose not to. They decided that it was their right, bodily autonomy, and they were not going to be forced, quote unquote, into taking the vaccine. That was their right. Well, the policy was clear. And so, not taking the vaccine after a period, they couldn't show up to work and they were deemed to have abandoned their jobs. When the situation cleared up, they were told that if they're interested, they should reapply for their jobs. Later on, reapply for the jobs and that their benefits would not be impacted. There would be no loss of benefits. Later on, they were told to indicate their interest to return. So it was softened from applying or reapplying to indicating whether or not they wanted to return to work. In my view, and others may differ, indicating your desire to return to work seemed rather procedural. After all, in my view, if you wanted to go back to work, you would let the Service Commission know, I would like to return to work, and they would then tell you where you should return. To me, it seemed procedural. I wasn't impacted, so I can't say for sure, but individuals who took that opportunity can't say whether or not it was a procedural matter. Teachers, public servants, police, nurses still chose not to. But what was made clear at every time, whether by the Minister of Education in terms of the teachers, the Prime Minister, and others, was that when you return to work, once indicated and you're back on the job, there will be no loss of benefits. The New Democratic Party's position throughout was that once they win, they will reinstate all teachers, nurses, police officers, public servants who were impacted by the regulation with full benefits. The question that I must raise is what exactly is the difference between full benefits as articulated by the leader of the opposition and that was articulated by the Prime Minister and the ULP, that there will be no loss of benefits. In other words, your pension, your gratuity, your vacation, and so forth would not be impacted. As a matter of fact, in Parliament, the Minister of Education, Curtis King, gave an example of a teacher who did not take the vaccine, was deemed to have abandoned her job, went back to work, but had gotten pregnant while off the job. And when she went back to work, her vacation leave was unaffected, her maternity leave was unaffected. She was able to proceed on maternity leave and her vacation leave, something referred to as long leave by teachers. So my understanding is that when you were told by the Unity Labour Party government of Dr. Ralph Gonsalves to return to work without loss of benefits, indicate return without loss of benefits, it was saying that you would not have a loss of gratuity, you would not have a loss of pension, you would not, your holiday time and your maternity time and so on, none of those things would be affected. The NDP's position was you would be reinstated with full benefits. Now, last week during the program, I made the point that the memo, as written by the minister, said that the teachers will go back to work, the government workers will go back to work under the existing laws, regulations, and policy pronouncements of the government. I made the point that as far as I'm aware, there were no changes in laws or regulations governing the public service, teaching service, and so forth, so that the conditions under which the teachers were being rehired, and I'm using the term rehired for now, and I'll tell you why, were essentially the same conditions as they would have been had they gone back to work 2 months ago, 6 months ago, 8 months ago, a year ago. The second thing is, and this was raised by a young lady from North Leeward, the letter that was sent by the PS in Education refers to re-engagement, not reinstatement. Now, individuals could take that as they want. If those who are explaining away what is happening think that re-engagement is reinstatement, and when the NDP Minister of Education says that they're going to be re-engaged, it's the same thing as what was promised, then that's fine. You know what you voted for. I didn't. But in pointing this out, someone I know, I've known for a very long time, came under the wheel and accused me of trying to muddy the waters. I guess now I can't ask questions. I can't draw conclusions. That's only for individuals who were anti-ULP or anti-policies of the ULP while the ULP were in office. Now that the ULP isn't, there's not the government, you asking questions? Why are you trying to muddy the waters? Why are you trying to muddy the waters? So now I'm asking, are the teachers being reinstated or are they being re-engaged? And are those concepts the same thing? To me, that's a legitimate question. But what is the difference? I happen to know that many of the individuals who stayed away, or rather, let me use the term of the government, who were deemed to have abandoned their jobs, are expecting to be paid for the period of time they were off the job. That is what I know because it was articulated to me by some individuals. That is what they are expecting as with full benefits. So the only difference between what the ULP offered up until the 27th of November and what the NDP is offering now is a back pay for the period of time you were home. That is, I am not saying that the NDP said that. I am telling you that from speaking to some affected individuals, that is an expectation. That is their expectation. Now, the NDP came into office and they said, go back to work, just show up. So, previously, you would indicate and you'd be placed. After the 27th, just show up. Just go back to work. Well, clearly, many individuals who were impacted by the regulation found it to be more reasonable to just show up. They found the idea of indicating, firstly, reapplying, okay, didn't like that. But to indicate, they found that to be wholly unreasonable and decided that I would prefer to stay home than indicate that I want to go back to work so that I can go back to work. And so having a more feasible situation in their mind where you can just show up to work, they chose that path. So the two differences, as far as I am able to glean, the two differences between both positions are, one, under the ULP, you would be entitled to your pension, your gratuity, your holiday, your maternity leave, and so forth, as if you never left. Under the NDP, you're entitled to your pension, your gratuity, your holiday pay, your maternity leave, as if you never left. Additionally, the expectation is that for the period of time you are off, you will be compensated. Secondly, under the previous government, you were asked to indicate your desire to return to work. Under this current government, just show up. No indication. Your indication is being at work, being to work. And individuals thought that to be more reasonable, and they did that. I ain't getting into breaking down and commenting on which is more reasonable than the other. It is what they found to be more or less reasonable. So I'm waiting to see how that pans out. Because just this afternoon, I was in Rosebank and I was talking to a friend of mine. We both taught together and had a good relationship as teachers, and we've maintained excellent relations. And he asked me, which government do you think has the teachers at heart? More. He said he believed that it was this government. So I asked, but how? Based on what? He says he believes that when they go to the parliament, they will change certain things to ensure that the benefits are given to teachers. I asked, what benefits though? Because the pension, the gratuity, and those things are, unaffected. So which? Like I said, I believe, based on having conversations with some of these impacted persons, that they are expecting compensation for the period of time they were at home. Now, let us see what the government does that is so different than what the ULP was proposing. I await. Now, this is a vexing issue because there are quite a few Vincentians who posit the theory that the vaccine mandate, the wicked mandate, the draconian mandate, people voted against it. Well, it wasn't so much the mandate, because the mandate was what everybody did. You go to the States, you go wherever, everybody had to take the vaccine or lose their jobs. But benefits. What happened after? And so, listen, I would love for those affected to get whatever additionally they voted for, because they voted for it, They were promised. They were promised. Dr. Gonzalez didn't, and the ULP didn't talk about full benefits. What they said was your benefits would not be affected. So it will be interesting to see exactly what full benefits mean under this administration. So that's a promise. I'm looking forward to see how they're going to keep it. I'm looking forward to see how that pans out. And let's see. Anyway, I won't go any further. By the way, remember, you could get your uplift with Sehon Marshall Mugger. Just let me know. Send me a message and we could organize that, right? Now, the voucher bonus. The voucher bonus was also another promise. My friend, my very good friend, Elroy Boucher, president of the Teachers Union, convinced the members of the union to support the NDP. As a matter of fact, the union endorsed the NDP. And I heard with my ears, Elroy Boucher promised the public servants that this December, history would be made when for the first time, teachers, public servants, and so forth will be given a double salary. He referred to it as a double bubble. Well, it's the 18th, people got paid. And it seems to me what was intended to be a voucher bonus is a voucher bubble. So now, and rightfully so, public servants are looking towards voucher. Boss, you told us that there will be a double bubble. Fitz Bramble, Minister of Foreign Affairs, echoed that on the platform. He said, this December, every public servant, from the janitor right up, will be getting a double salary. Anybody? I mean, I don't know who's on the live, but I'd love somebody on the live to tell me about the double salary, please now. Please. So clearly, the voucher bubble busts. Now, I know voucher. I believe he has the interests of the worker at heart. I do believe that. But over the last few years, I believe he took things personal and he acted more out of a personal vendetta than for the general welfare of the worker. That's my belief. And I could tell Boucher that, and I know him and I would continue to be friends. So I would not, and I'm being honest now, straight up, I would not at all accuse Boucher of anything untoward. I wouldn't, because I do believe that even though, in my view, the last few years, last 2 elections or so, he was driven by a personal vendetta because he felt personally wronged by the government. And so he wanted to get rid of the government because he felt personally wronged by the government. And so I believe his vision was blurred because of that. And we all know that because we know the situation with Boucher. It's public. I believe his judgment was impacted because of his personal quest to get rid of the government, because he felt wronged. Elroy, me to you, I'm looking. I'm looking to see what promotion you get and how quickly you get it. And then, when that happens, and there is no double bubble, I would conclude then, and I would make my conclusions straight and plain right here on this platform. But for now, I withhold my commentary in that regard. But I'll tell you this. If I were you, I would consider my promise, and much more than a promise, the guarantee to the public servants of a double bubble salary this December by a party you told them to vote for. I would consider the non-fulfillment of that as a betrayal of the Public Service Union, and I would tender my resignation if I want to hold my integrity intact. I am advising you. I am telling you what I would have done. If I, as president of a union, went out on a limb, endorsed a party, and told my members, vote the party because that party will give you a double salary bonus for Christmas, and that doesn't come, I would feel as if I have betrayed my union because they are supposed to be my interest, not the party. My interest ought not to be to get the party elected. It's to get the best working conditions for my union, including salaries and benefits. And when that fails as spectacularly as it has, I would tender my resignation because I would feel that I had betrayed my union, my members. But that's just me talking. Can't be no president or nothing. But I'm watching you. And public servants go watch you. Because they want to see who will benefit the most from this victory. The public servants or Elroy Boucher are watching. So that's the second promise. So we had the VAT-free day. We had the double bubble. None of them so far. But tomorrow, the 19th, there will be a VAT-free shopping day. And I'm telling you, I'm telling you, I am hoping, for the sake of those who voted, for the promise, I am hoping that the benefits you expect to accrue on a day like tomorrow, they are realized. You see, in law, there is something called legitimate expectation, which is where you and someone get into an agreement and you made certain commitments and then you pull back. That person can take you to court and sue you because, in the eyes of the court or in the eyes of the person, you created a legitimate expectation on behalf of the person, on the part of the person, based on your undertakings. And so, the double salary, the reinstatement of teachers with full benefits, including compensation for the time they were off, significant savings on a VAT-free shopping day. All of these are legitimate expectations of voters of St. Vincent and the Grenadines who voted. The challenge for our Prime Minister and his cabinet and those who support him would be to manage those expectations. How do you go back to the voting population? Have you seen, guys watching, have you seen the number of memes and so forth that are popping up about today? Someone sent me a picture of something that looks like a chewing gum, a pack of chewing gum. Well, you know, one of those old, long time the chewing gum, they just lose the taste fast. And the more you chew them, the tougher they get. And on top of the wrapper, you have double bubble gum. I saw a picture that was shared before from the office of the Prime Minister's Facebook page with a number of members in cabinet laughing, and the caption, how them NDP guys laughing after been sentenced after the fool we. I mean, the memes are endless because within the first couple of weeks of taking office, your promises are breaking. And what I find to be remarkable in all this is that individuals who criticize every move of the last government are explaining away what is happening now with the added situation of expecting others to wash them out. So I remember saying to you that a guy said to me, because the little post I made, he said to me that I supported the COVID mandate and people got fired. So I am not qualified to talk about what this government should do. What qualification is required to speak on issues regarding St. Vincent and the Grenadines? What? I mean, that individual, I saw comment on everything on Facebook, and he does not have a quarter of my academic qualification, but he spoke. What qualified him to speak and criticize every single thing that the government did? Because he don't have the academic qualifications I have, so how come he qualified to talk why he can't talk? The only qualification needed to speak in this country on issues affecting this country is to be a citizen of this country. And notice a citizen, you know. I ain't telling you you have to live here. As a resident, you could speak too. As a citizen overseas, you could talk. It's your country. But there's a dangerous, very dangerous thing that is happening. Individuals who support the NDP think they can dictate to individuals who didn't support the NDP or do not support the NDP how and what they could say. Even though during the term of the ULP, last 5 years, the 5 years before that, they criticize every single thing every single day. But now, oh, how dare you criticize? How dare you talk? He said, I supported that government and that policy, so I'm not qualified to talk now. And if I am to take that logic to its conclusion, are you telling me that because I voted for the opposition, the current opposition, I am not qualified to benefit in St. Vincent and the Grenadines? Is that what you're telling me? I can't talk, I can't benefit? And you're seeing that more and more. But they can't stop me from talking. They will not stop me from talking. Because I have this medium. This is mine. I bought the equipment. I pay for all of the stuff I need, the online platform, everything. This is mine. And as long as I have a voice, I will be here every Thursday night, bringing the issues that affect Vincentians. You know, there's one more thing I want to talk about. I reached out to journalist Nelson King, lives in the US, about an article I saw that he had published about the Vinci celebration. There's an organization in New York called Vinci, VINCI. And they had an award dinner. And Consul General Luther McIntosh was there, and he gave an address. And Nelson King did a very good job in giving you a sense of what took place there. He quoted extensively the speech of the Consul General and so forth. And I thought it was quite tasteful. You know, it showed how much Luther has grown in the role as Consul General. Nelson King even went on to discuss the fact that, and I've heard it from other individuals in the diaspora, that quite a large cross-section of the Vincentian diaspora in that area are happy with Luther's performance. They see him as possibly the best Consul General that we've had in a very long time. And they like his performance. And based on his performance, man, he could stay on. But boy, there is this aggressive attitude and posture. Get rid of him. Why you go back up? And then I saw an article under the caption, Luther, Consul General McIntosh, hopeful that he would keep his job. So I'm like, we're going out with Luther. I read the article. The article was essentially a replication of Nelson King's article without the credit from Nelson King. But there was nothing in the article that was separate or different than what Nelson had written. So there was nothing there that suggested any hopefulness on the part of Luther. But I saw the comments under that article. Oh my God. They were ripping Luther apart. Ripping him apart. Why you go back up there? He just campaigned for labor. We didn't stay home. Luther, you're gone, and so forth. Not if you pray. And I even saw individuals who know nothing talking lies. So I'm going to clear the air tonight. Luther never begged or suggested he wanted to stay on. But Luther, who has a contract with the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, not Labour Party, went back to his post. Not going back to New York would mean an abandonment of his post. So Luther continues to work for the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines until the government decides what they're going to do with the post. That's reasonable. I've seen some writings of individuals who wish they were diplomats but have never been. And apart from some theoretical understanding of diplomacy, they have no clue. None. So he went to his post. In the same way, Ellsworth John is at his post, Randa King is at her post, uh, uh, um, Mrs. Bowman is at her post, Luan is at her post. Why are you picking on Luther? Why are you picking on Luther? So that's the first thing. So he's employed by the government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, not the Labour Party. But as is customary, because generally speaking, heads of missions are political appointees, heads of missions. The anticipation, the expectation is that the government an incoming government would replace them. And I'm sure Luther has no illusions as to whether or not he'll be replaced. I'm sure. Luther is stupid. But let me tell you this. Fitz Bramble worked with the ULP for about 6 years after 2001. And then when he got the job with the OAS, the same ULP government recommended Fitz Bramble, the current Minister of Foreign Affairs. He wasn't fired in 2001. He left his job about 6-7 years later. Frank Clark, again, someone who sought to be a candidate for the NDP recently, he continued working with this Labour government for about 5 years. After, Bernard Wiley, politician up until 1998, was at the consulate, worked with Labour for an additional 2 or so years. He didn't stay home after the elections. Nobody kicked him out. He was kept on. So this thing where people who don't know go on the social media and lie about Labour firing everybody, it's not true. And it would be good if Bernard Wiley, Fitz Bramble, Frank Clark, as just 3 examples, can rebut and refute anything I just said tonight. But they are the vultures, and I have to use the word, because that's what they're getting on like. Look, I am currently on the boards of 2 statutory institutions. And after the elections, I said to the heads of both of those institutions, I will not resign. Not because I expect to be kept on and will go and cry victimization when I am replaced, because I fully expect to be replaced. But I am giving the government the opportunity to replace me. You see, here's the thing. The new government wins, and I respect any of those individuals who decided for what reason to tender resignations. I mean, if I was press secretary at the office of the Prime Minister and Dr. Gonzalez lost, of course I would resign, because I can't be the press secretary to Dr. Friday. So that's different. That's a very politically engaged situation. But if you have a regular job, so I'm on these 2 boards, and I've said, if I have to tender my resignation straight off the bat because my party lost, I am suggesting, I'm giving the impression that I have no interest in nation building and working with the new government, because I am not working with the party. I'm working with the government. I'm doing the work of the government. Now, when the government decides, okay, we are going in a different direction. We have a different policy direction. And so I'm going to put people in place to carry out the policy of this government. Absolutely. I expect it. I step aside. I step aside. And there'll be no cry or talk about victimization from my mouth because you understand that that's how it works. But this illusion and this myth where people are suggesting that somehow, look, in the States, Luther is the diplomat, consul general. You know all this stuff that going on with ICE and deportation and so forth in the States? Imagine Luther didn't go up and the government is yet to appoint a consul general. What will happen to his citizens who get locked up and who are getting deported? What will happen to them? What will happen to our citizens who fall into trouble with the immigration and so forth, with no diplomat in the consulate? What will happen to them? So I think Luther has done the noble thing in saying, I will stay on until you have gotten things sorted out and you've identified your pick. I'm not saying that's what he said, but that's how I interpret his action. As someone who has done the diplomatic thing now, as someone who has done the diplomacy business, who knows it not just theoretically, but practically, I interpret his actions as saying, well, I am appointed by the government in this position. I understand the significance and the importance of this decision, and I will stay on until the government has identified a replacement for me. And that, to me, is what diplomacy looks like. Real, practical diplomacy. Not packing up and coming home, oh my party lose, and what in the office happen. But there are those, as I said, who don't understand this thing. You don't understand this thing. There's one thing about having a certificate. It's another thing to have actually practiced diplomacy, whether bilateral or multilateral diplomacy. But, comrades, let me see this. I was talking to a sister of mine as I close, and I saw somebody put something there. As I close, I drew a parallel to my sister. And my sisters, my mom, very devout Christians. Me, not so much. And I said, the idea of wanting a change for wanting a change is nothing new. It's nothing new. And I go back to the Bible. There was a time when the people of God were ruled by God Himself. And He was being their ruler, their king, their Lord, their provider, their protector, whatever it is, their leader. And the people rose up and said, time for a change. Time for a change. We want what the other countries have. And the prophet said, are you sure? God tell the prophet, listen, go and tell them that when they get a king, you're going to kill their sons and take their daughters and so on and so forth. And all of what would happen if you change were explained. You see, but I've been here leading you. I've protected you. I've brought you this. I've taken you through these difficulties. Why you want change? It's because the other countries have it I wanted to. And I said to myself, oh my God, that is so similar, eh? That is so similar. And people cut this up and put whatever they want to. So that's all right. That's all right. Custom to that. Custom people cut me thing and take it out of context. And I said, that's so uncanny, boy. Here it is. You have a prime minister and a government that brought so much development to our country, that educated our children, that the policies that lifted thousands out of poverty, that offered home ownership. I mean, that brought St. Vincent up to 6th in the Human Development Index in the region. And they say, oh, I change. But why do I change? If you change, they're going to sell your passport. If you change, they're going to cut relations with Taiwan that could affect your children's education and could affect certain developmental projects that we have. If you change, different things go happen. They say, yeah, but we what other countries have. We were CBI and double salary. Like St. Kitts. Like St. Kitts. And I'm reminded, as I was talking to my mother, she said, I believe with all my heart, as the Bible says, that it is God who sets up kingdoms and brings them down. And even his infinite wisdom, despite that he knew that having an earthly king was not what was best for his children of Israel then, he set up the kingdom. He set up the kingdom of Saul. And we know what happened. Well, the voice of the people is the voice of God. And the people have spoken. And Almighty God, for those of you who believe in faith, have established the government that we have today. And we will see the direction that this government takes this country. Do not allow anyone to muzzle you or tell you you can't talk. I have not posted on a single person comment in almost 10 years. I see comments all the time. I see them, I read them, I scroll past them. Because that's your opinion. I don't engage, I don't challenge, I scroll past. That's your opinion, you are allowed to have it. I have an opinion. As a citizen of this country, I'm allowed to have it and I'm allowed to express it. And when I see in my own mind, through my own critical analysis, that things promised by a party during elections are not being delivered, I have a right to question it. And no one is going to stop me. Don't make anyone stop you. You got to keep the fight. Comrades, until next week, when I'm back with you with another edition of your favorite show, Up Late with Sehon Marshall, on behalf of the producer and all those of you who joined us tonight, let me thank you so much. Now, next week is Christmas. So I don't know how I'm going to do it yet because I don't know if I should do a program on Christmas night because it's Christmas night. But you would hear us before the end of the year. It maybe next Thursday. We may record it before and just play it live next Thursday. However we choose to do it, you will hear from us, God's willing. So please, have yourself a Merry Christmas from all of us here at Up Late with Sehon Marshall. And I'll see you soon. God bless.